You're listening to Why You Should Burn Down Your Office on episode 7 of Business Unplugged.
All right, Dave. So you've applied for a job, you've done the interviews, and you've got it. So they're going to pay you 40 grand a year. You've got to go into London 5 days a week. Friday afternoons, they might give you a bit of time off to get drunk with the other co-workers. That seems to be the thing that people do in London.
Apparently you have to.
Yeah. And then, but you live outside London, and it's going to take you 2 hours door to door to get there and 2 hours back.
Well, that's quick, really.
Yeah. Now, outside of London, the same job, they're going to pay you 30 grand.
30?
Yeah, it's 10 grand more to go into London every day.
10 grand more, then I'd take the 40 grand. I reckon the math on that's about 5-6k for the transport.
Train ticket's about 4,800.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So this is based on, I've been speaking to a few people recently, and how much time it takes them to get into London.
Yeah.
So got the maths calculator out.
Yeah.
And the abacus. and by using all of the brain RAM I have calculated just how expensive commuting into London is. All right.
Once you take into account the drag factor of your brain, that's just
also the drag factor of my maths. So 40 grand a year, right? 4 hours a day. When you work out their hourly rate, now they're not getting paid for those 4 hours. That is costing them in their own time, if they're worth that set hourly rate, £14,328 of their own time. So if they stayed at home and got the same hourly rate by a side hustle, that's how much they could produce. The train ticket itself over the year is 4,800, totaling £19,000 of their time and money a year just to go and get paid 40 grand.
So hang on, my 30 grand job outside of London
is way cheaper. You've also got to bear in mind that 40 grand's got tax. So at the end of the day, this person could be looking at about 10, 15 grand profit if they value their own time.
But it's not just about individual employees and how much they do or don't earn. It is also about the organisations, and that's where I don't even want to. I hesitate on even saying this words because as soon as I do, there's probably going to be a jingle.
Ooh, look at those stats.
77% of employees felt flexible working added productivity.
Aided productivity.
I'll just say added.
Well, yeah, you did, but I guess it's the same thing. Yeah. So what do you think of that? 77% flexible working.
That's an impressive stat, right?
So
if they've gone away and they've gone, actually, don't forget, this is employees saying, I'm actually better if you do this. This is a pretty rare thing to say, right?
23% of people are lying, I reckon.
Basically, as well. So basically, it's 100%. That's what we said.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yep, 100%.
82% of telecommuters reported lower stress levels.
You can believe that, can't you? Not having to do that horrid 4-hour commute.
Absolutely.
With your head in someone's armpit.
I mean, we do a lot of away work, and whenever I'm normally against the grain because I'm going away from London, but whenever you're stuck in traffic, it's infuriating.
The last time I did rush hour on the tube, the train door opened, and I said to the people on it, I'm not going to get on there. It was weird that I spoke to people in London publicly. They all sort of hissed and went, burn him at the stake.
That was weird. I'm surprised you got out of there alive.
This girl went, you can try if you want. And I got on, and I sat on her lap. I had my face on this guy's chest, just like sort of like a child being with his parents.
I don't care what you get up to in your own time.
And they were like, why are you doing this? There's loads of space on the carriage. I said, I just need nurturing. Yeah. So anyway, what the stats?
The average person's...
The average person's office productivity.
That's what I was going to say.
This has come out recently. It's 2.5 hours. That's how much work they reckon people in an office do a day. The rest is spent chin wagging about Netflix, around the water cooler, and going on Tinder.
The positive impact on the environment is huge because what are you doing if you're not commuting? You're sitting at home.
Imagine if rush hour's gone. Yeah. All that smog. That's amazing. And this is what is very, very much broken, we feel, with the world right now. And it's why we think maybe you should burn down your office. And what was really refreshing was the other day after a podcast, we got an email from someone who wasn't crazy.
But he knows how to structure a pivot.
He certainly does. We get a lot of emails come through from companies trying to get backlinks and things on our websites, and we don't ever say yes to them because they've got nothing to do with what we want to talk about, even though they're offering to pay, which is crazy. Rob just...
Sometimes up to £75.
Yeah, up to 75 big ones. We got this email. It just says, interview the world's first blogger and digital nomad. I thought, this is interesting. So we checked him out. His name's Rob. Looked at everything about him. And so it turns out Rob, one of the first people ever to put a blog on the internet, has been a digital nomad working all around the world forever, living this dream life.
Hang on, stop.
Go on.
The first person to put a blog on the internet. You can't just glide over that.
Well, I have. I
suppose we're going to talk about it.
We are going to talk about it.
All right, we'll leave it till later.
But I mean,
Fine.
there's some other things, right? So we look into him. This is Rob, one of Rob's businesses
Yeah.
that made £1 million in a day. Now, when I spoke to Rob about this, what I liked about it was, unlike pretty much everyone else on the internet, he said, can you make sure everyone knows that wasn't £1 million profit? It was turnover. And I was like, oh, this guy's great. So he's done a lot of marketing, got a lot of business experience. He lost in the recession. He's come back again. Rob is currently in Thailand. We've got him live on the line, and we're going to ring in, and Rob's going to teach you why you should burn down your office, let your staff work from wherever they want, make everyone happier, and save them potentially 20 grand of their time a year.
The office. I'll teach you to burn. The office.
Hi there, Rob. How are you doing over there in Thailand?
Hey guys, really good to talk to you. Good to be on the show. Yes, good, great, all good here. Beautiful day.
So, look, I should introduce you properly. We are talking to Rob Plamer, the world's first blogger. We're going to come to that. Rob's from Go Freelance, and he helps businesses adjust, change, and get used to the fact that their businesses can now be much more flexible in how their people and teams work. And he's here to help us unpack what advantages there are for SMEs to their businesses to now use the digital tools that are available and use the freedoms that are available to it to free up both their costs and time. And so there's some amazing stats that we've got about your background that you're hopefully going to unpack with us, Rob. We understand that you've managed to do sales of £1 million in one day. That might be $1 million actually. I might have got the currency wrong there. You've got a ton of marketing and business experience, and as I mentioned before, you're the world's first blogger. Where do we start? I think it's pretty obvious. We need to know about that story.
Okay, so yeah, let's go back to the early 90s when most people had never heard of the internet. I was working in UK, lived in UK. I was a freelance copywriter, and one of my clients was BT, and I did a lot of work for the research laboratories, which are up in Martlesham Heath near Ipswich. And they're great guys to work with, a lot of very smart boffins working on very advanced projects. And I used to write like a quarterly magazine, a printed magazine about the projects they were working on. And one day when I went up there, they were really excited. They said, oh, we've got a new idea. Instead of printing the journal, we want to put it on the internet. It's going to go on the World Wide Web. And I said, so what's the internet? What's the World Wide Web? What are you talking about? And it was a new thing then, because the World Wide Web had just become open source, which meant that it's an opportunity to distribute information in a way which hadn't been possible before. So we transformed our printed online journal into an online magazine, or an online journal we called it then, which is what we would today call a blog, but of course that term hadn't been invented then. So it was extremely primitive. It was very hard to set up, even with all these boffins helping me. It took us weeks, if not months, just to get the domain registered and to get the website organized. There's no like kind of content management system. We had to do everything the hard way with hand-coded pages. So it was hard work, but as soon as we got it up, I could see that there's real potential for this internet thing. It really makes it easy for people to communicate. And the project was a great success. It allowed researchers to communicate with other researchers and bring people on board with their projects and that kind of thing. And I immediately thought, well, this is going to get really big and I want to be involved. So I set up my own website after a while and used that to kind of promote my own kind of writing services at that time. And then gradually I started my own online business and things took off from there. And once I had my full-time business, online business, I wasn't tied to London anymore, and I could go off and become what we now call a digital nomad. But again, the phrase had yet to be invented, but I was kind of pioneering that lifestyle.
Rob, why was it then you became a digital nomad?
Well, my first experiment with that was back in 1999 when my online business was making enough money that I could quit freelancing. So I had a bit more freedom, and I had young children at the time. So we decided to do a trip to Ireland. But I needed to stay in touch with my online business and check email and deal with customer support, that kind of thing. So I decided I could do that while we were traveling. So we went off to Ireland in a rusty old camper van. I had a fantastic time traveling around. But the only way I could get online in those days, there was no co-working spaces, no internet cafes. You couldn't buy a SIM card. The only way I could get online was to go into town somewhere, and I would literally knock on someone's door and ask them, "Do you mind it? Could I use your internet if you have it? And I'll pay you like 10 Irish pounds to use your internet for an hour." And some people didn't have the internet; they still hadn't got there yet. But some people did, and they didn't want me to. But a few people would say, "Yeah, okay, that sounds fair enough." And then my whole family would probably end up invading the house, and I'd sit there for an hour and catch up with a bit of work and then move on. So it was it was very clumsy and clunky, but it worked. We were able to travel and work at the same time, and I thought, well, this is pretty cool. So we then started thinking, okay, well, I now know we can move out of London, we can move somewhere else. And originally we were thinking maybe we'd just move out further out into Surrey or to Sussex, maybe to Brighton, and we ended up emigrating to Australia and starting a whole new life there. So, I mean, I was able to finish work early most days, pick my kids up from school, put the surfboard on the roof, and we'd off go down the beach and go surfing or swimming or jet skiing, all that kind of thing. And my kids grew up having a real Aussie beach lifestyle. So that's only possible because of this digital nomad freedom.
First up, let's look at the pros. What are the pros? I mean, you've touched on a few of them already. Right now, what are the pros for you of working remotely?
The pros really, I would say, it's all about freedom. Partially location freedom. You're not tied to a city or an office or any particular area. You can go anywhere you can get online, which is pretty much the whole planet nowadays. You can live and work from there. And also time freedom, that you're escaping the kind of 9 to 5 routine in most cases. You have flexible hours, so you can choose. Like I prefer to get up early. I do some work in the morning. I aim to be finished by lunchtime, early afternoon, and then I've got the rest of the day to other stuff. Other people do it the other way around. They're like just lie in the morning, work in the afternoon, or whichever way you want to do it. You have the flexibility, to work the hours that suit you. So, and so it's all about, I'd say, freedom is if you had to sum it up in one word, is freedom.
Mm. And then, so what are the downsides, if any? And what have you come across?
Okay, very few. So the most obvious one is if you have to do conference calls, sometimes they can be at inconvenient times. If I have to do a call with someone in the US, it might be 2:00 in the morning my time. And it depends who I'm working with. If it's people who know where I'm located and everything else, we can usually work out a convenient time. But maybe if it's like a possible potential new client or whatever, then it's better for me to talk to them at a time that's convenient from their point of view, and that could be 2:00 in the morning. So sometimes that will happen, but most of the time you can work around that, and that's probably the biggest downside I can think of.
And do you find that you've got a lot of give, as it were, for being flexible to your clients, I suppose, but has there ever been any pushback in any way, whether it's internally within your organization or with clients, because you work flexibly like this?
I would say very rarely. Once a time I've talked to a potential client, and then they've realized that I'm not in UK or whatever, and they say, "Oh, I only work with people who I can meet up with face to face," and that's the end of it. But and that would have been more common 5-10 years ago. But I think the situation is changing now. People are becoming much more comfortable with the idea of working people remotely. The technology is improved. And plus, as the kind of generation of management coming through now, the kind of millennial generation, they've grown up with this technology. So it's not a big deal. They're used to working in this kind of way. So it'll get easier year by year. That'll be less. It's not much of an issue now, and it'll become less of an issue as each year goes by.
Do you think there's anything in that idea of the face-to-face, the human contact? What do you think lies behind that? It's just tradition, or is it a more intrinsic thing than that, like body language?
Yeah, I mean, it is, in an ideal world, it's great if you can meet up face-to-face, but the benefit is small compared to what you miss out on. If you only restrict yourself to people you can meet face to face, you miss out on so many great contacts, so much talent. I would much rather, if I need, let's say, if I need a programmer to work on a project, I would much rather be able to find the best person with the right skills for that particular project, whether they're in, Pakistan or Peru or whatever, rather than find someone that I can meet with here in Bangkok and talk to face to face. So it swings and roundabouts, but I would say the advantages of being able to connect with someone remotely are far greater than any disadvantages.
So let's have a look at SMEs, and I suppose we are thinking about the UK experience more than anything here, but still, even for SMEs anywhere, what's the current issue with the way they operate in regards to offices? What are the sort of issues that you can clearly see now that you've had the freedom of being able to work anywhere?
Yeah, it's largely a culture problem, I think. People still continue to do things the old way. People like to see managers like to see their employees in the office because they kind of think that if I can see them, then I know that they're working. But research has proved that that's not true, that office-based workers waste a lot of time, especially now that everyone's got a smartphone, which is really hard for managers to monitor. And research shows that people spend something like 8 to 10 hours a week messing around on their phones, watching sports, talking to people on Facebook, et cetera, and when they should be working. So the idea that you have to have people within visibility, somewhere you can see them in order to manage them, is simply not true. And you just have to get good at managing people rather than assuming that they have to be within your field of vision.
And what are some of the things that you found you've done to motivate people? Is that what you have to do? You can't be a wheelbarrow for people, but you obviously need to give them something to motivate them. Maybe goals that are aligned with theirs, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I think the main thing is that you're managing by productivity rather than by time. So it's not about if someone spends 40 hours a week working for you or not is irrelevant. What really counts is what they get done. And you should have an idea of what a reasonable person can get done in a particular job in a week. And you do need to manage that and make sure that they are being productive and delivering on time. And if they're not, then you need to be able to have a conversation with them and try and resolve that. Sometimes you'll find that they're just not suited to working with you in this way, and you have to say, I'm sorry, this isn't working out, we're going to have to let you go, and you find someone else who is a better fit. But there are plenty of people who respond very positively to the opportunity. If you give them that flexibility and give them a chance to prove themselves, they respond. They really want to be part of a team and part of a business that's going somewhere.
So when it comes to your remote management, if we look back at SMEs again and thinking they're going, oh, this kind of sounds interesting. We've got a team of say 20. Can't just let them all go and work, wherever they want willy nilly. How would you kind of ease? How would you get them to? What's the first step? What do they do?
Burn the office.
Apart from burn down the office.
Burn the office on the Friday night when everyone's out, so it's safe. Obviously,
and then take the insurance money.
You don't want to kill people, but burn the office on the Friday. On the Monday, you just give them a laptop.
Yeah, good point. Apart from that,
is that what you do? Is that it? Right, we're done. All right.
That's definitely an option, but you can also do it step by step as well. You might start by allowing people to work from home 1 day a week. It's like Google with its Friday project, where on Fridays people can work on whatever they want to. Similar kind of thing. You could say maybe Fridays, okay, you're going to work from home, and as long as you make it clear that you are supposed to be working, it's not a 3-day weekend. We're expecting you to be productive and still be part of the team and contributing, and then you can experiment with that. And once you've ironed out the kinks in that step, you could maybe take it to 2 steps to 2 days a week and extend it from there.
I mean, some people would say that they'd go to work because of the social factor. Do you think there's much in that, where you're around people and there's a bit of a laugh and a bit of a joke, and there's that feeling of team that is hard to replicate? Is the technology catching up and making that better for people remotely?
Yeah, I've found that it's good to have. For example, we have a group chat, which we've been using Skype for that for some years, so we're still using Skype for that. And the whole team can just hop in at any time and chat about anything. And usually it's mostly kind of work related, or occasionally, or it can be a little bit of social. Just like everything else, it's a question of getting the right mix. Just to keep people involved so that the whole team feel they're all working together. So there are ways of getting around that. There will be some individuals who aren't comfortable with remote work, and they will, maybe the people who want to stick to traditional work. Or there are some companies like Basecamp, for example, or 37 Signals is the Basecamp company. They have a kind of flexible work arrangement where people can come into the office when they feel like it. So they can, if they want that kind of social interaction, or they need to do meetings face to face, they can do that. But the rest of the week they just work from home or from other parts of the world. So there's definitely a room. You don't have to go all the way. You can have a mix of conventional office plus remote working and kind of a home-based local employees, and have a mix that works as well. And you could also have some people maybe full-time employees, others might be week-by-week contractors, others might be occasional freelancers, and you can fit all those people into the team quite easily.
Can I ask another question about that? There's a temptation to think that in the past, when workforces or even when individuals have got super efficient, so for instance, they could say, right, I've managed to get my productivity, all the week's productivity, into 4 days instead of 5, and I'm going to take that Friday off. The economy as a whole can take up that slack and go, oh, people are way more productive. Well, let's give you more work somehow. Or basically, you lose that competitive edge over somebody else who will just put in more time at that capacity. So, is there a worry though that if we move towards a future in which we do become more productive to get these gains, and we just give that up to the capitalist economy to some degree, in which we then end up just working harder and for longer?
They're trying to trick us, is what you're saying.
Yeah, there is an issue that companies tend to worry that their employees won't work hard enough if they're working remotely. But what often happens is complete the reverse. People, they want to kind of prove themselves, and because they don't have a clocking off time, they, instead of finishing at 5, they may actually be at home working until 10 or 11 o'clock in the evening, and actually putting in extra hours to do more work. So that's also an issue that needs to be managed as well, that you don't end up with people doing too much work and being too productive. So all those kind of factors will need to be managed one way or another, but it will be figured out. As things change, we will figure out how to make it all work.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So what result would you think this would have for your average SME if they started, managed to get it so that they did get as free as maybe the guys who do Basecamp with their employees?
So I certainly think it means, for one thing, perhaps the most important thing, to have a happier workforce. It is nice to go to the office sometimes, but most people don't want to have to go every day. When the alarm clock goes off at 6:30 a.m., whatever, and you have to get up and you have to go to the office. It's very liberating to escape from that, and knowing that maybe you only need to go in once or twice in a week, if at all. So I think companies, employees would be happier to have that kind of more personal freedom and the trust that goes with the model. And companies also they'll save money, as we said, on office costs, on a lot of other expenses, and they'll find that there are all kind of benefits. Just cutting out all that wasted commuting time, someone's going to benefit from that, whether it's the employee or the company, or most likely both, or the economy as a whole is going to benefit from that, and the environment. There are definitely more upsides than downsides.
Absolutely. I mean, just look, if you're someone who only thinks with your wallet and you didn't really care about, say, the environment or even your time, you've got to look at the simple maths of just how much more you could earn. We did at the intro. It's like, nearly, for the average worker, half their salary could be going up in commuting time and bills associated with it.
Well, if they could always use that half of time to work at home on a side hustle and then generate more money anyway. So
is that what you're doing? What's the side hustle?
I don't have any time for a side hustle right now, Dave.
Oh, good. The plan is working.
I've got enough time for the regular hustle.
And also, I think apart from the commuting, there's so much time gets wasted in the typical office environment between meetings which aren't necessary and involve too many people. So if you've got a meeting that goes on for 1 hour and there are 8 people in that meeting, that's not 1 hour that's wasted, that's 8 hours that are wasted. And I know when I was working in the corporate world that meetings seemed to be endless. There were always too many people involved for meetings which nobody really needed to have. And that's far less likely to happen if you've got remote workers. You have conversation when you need to. It takes a bit of effort to set up a video conference call, and you don't tend to hang around chatting for no particular reason, or you invite the people who need to be on the call and you talk about what needs to be discussed, and then you're done.
Brilliant. So basically what you're saying is we should burn down the office and all go and live on the beach, in short, in summary.
A lot of traditional office-based companies could do much better if they did that. Exactly that. Yeah.
I always think that. I think the same thing. We were definitely on the same page. I'm hoping that we've convinced some other people to maybe look at it too. Okay, well that brings us on to the part of the show which is called Pitch to a 5-year-old. We don't know any 5-year-olds, so the child may be 13 or 10. But basically it's a child, and instead of just sort of telling people what you do, we thought, let's make sure the whole world can understand it. So this is your chance, your moment of glory, Rob, where you can tell the world what it is you do, and hopefully, maybe try and get some conversations going with our listeners.
And hopefully get a whole new demographic, right down to 5-year-olds that are wanting to work.
You'll have children lining
go freelance. Up. Yeah. I want to go freelance.
They probably will. So whenever you're ready, Rob.
Pitch away.
Can you pitch to a 5-year-old? Maybe even a 10-year-old, perhaps even a 13-year-old. We're not sure yet. Can you pitch to a 5-year-old, or maybe a 10-year-old, even maybe a 13-year-old? We make this up on the spot.
So what I do is I help people change their lives so that instead of having to spend hours traveling to work and back every day and be forced to work in the same place day after day, they have the freedom to work from anywhere in the world, to choose the work that they find interesting, and potentially to make more money and just be able to go anywhere, be anyone, and create the lifestyle of their dreams.
That's fantastic.
That's pretty good. I understood
reckon,
it.
yeah.
So that's the first challenge.
I was almost singing "We Are the World." It's got a beautiful simplicity to it, and kind of inspiring. So it's great.
Awesome.
That's what you need.
Okay, well, that kind of sums up that feature. Rob, thank you very much for coming on and giving your time to us. I'm really glad that you got in contact with us. You're the first person ever to email in and ask to come on the show. Yeah. So anyway, Rob, great chatting with you. And hopefully we'll speak soon.
In the future, people won't read books. They'll just know everything. But until then, we've made a book review because you're not as clever as the people from the future.
So, of course, that jingle means it's time for our book review and giveaway. And what we've gone for is a very topical one here. This is Remote. You may have heard these guys. I wrote another book called Rework, and these guys came up with Ruby on Rails. There's a guy called Jason Fried, not quite sure how to pronounce his name. No, I need to read his name.
Fried.
And David Heinemann Hansen, I'm going to say. Anyway, founded a company called 37 Signals, and they're brilliant. So the other book, Rework, is one of the ones I put on my must-read. And it's a no-nonsense approach. And because these guys...
You were quite taken with their no-nonsense approach to getting rid of your office, right?
Yeah, so this book here is all about remote working, covers everything we've just spoken about, but it's some guys that have done it. And actually, Rob's mentioned a couple of them as well, because I know he's read this. And it's how they built this big company up and continue to do it. But what I love about it, and their other book, Rework, is because they're kind of coders and they're almost robotic, there's no emotion. So it's like, boom, what's the point? You're wasting money. You're wasting time. It really is no nonsense the way they've written it.
But surely those big, glamorous, marble-adorned lobbies in London, there can't be a waste of time and money.
I mean,
they must mean something to someone.
There's that whole showing off thing, isn't it? And it's like, if you want to be a show-off, read this book, and you probably want to burn it with your office. Not with your office.
Well, marble doesn't burn very easily.
But it's great. It covers everything we've just talked about. I really like it. It's got pictures in. Which pads it out. That's a bit cheeky, isn't it? They wanted to make it look like they had a bigger book. So they pop some images in there. I mean, most pages have an image on somewhere.
Now we know why you read it.
But yeah,
You say read.
Honestly,
you watched it.
These two guys are brilliant, and they really. I laugh quite a lot when I read it because they say things. They tell it as it is, and it's nice to hear someone do it. So we're going to give this away because it's anyone who's been inspired to actually want to have a go at getting their team on remote working or working with people abroad and have fear. This is for you. To win it, what we thought was, what did we think?
We thought that if you were to, rather than just win it for you, which is boring by doing some quiz or something, which we sometimes do, but we wanted to shake it up, you just need to tag a pal in LinkedIn that you want to receive this book, who you think it's perfect for, and you might get to read it after them as well, but tag them, and we'll take the third person that gets tagged. We'll know.
And we'll give you both a copy of the book. First thing you want to do is you want to add me and Dave on LinkedIn if you've not already got us, and you can do so by just typing in our names. Then what you want to do, once we've accepted you, then you click on our profile, go down to recent posts, and then just track out the podcast trailers. There'll be a few different ones that you can see, and we'll make it as obvious as possible. And then just tag a friend that you think would like the idea of remote working. And if you're the third person to do it, then yeah, we'll send you and them a copy of Rework. The date of release of this is going to be the 19th of April 2019. So if you're listening to it after that, go on there. Not many people will do it, so you're in a good chance of winning a couple of books.
Absolutely.
The closing date for the competition will be the 3rd of May 2019.
Actually, we can give you a very clear stat on how your odds are, because what are we current up to in terms of individual listeners?
Individual listeners, 48.
48. So you're 1 in 48.
That doesn't count all the video people on YouTube, though, so there are
Fine.
more. And we
All
are
right.
getting people from around the world watching that now. So, yeah, if you want to win the book, connect with us on LinkedIn, tag a friend in it, just saying, have a free book, maybe. And, do something nice for someone that you like, and maybe bring them on this remote sort of office-burning
Journey.
pilgrimage with us. Yeah?
Very good.
Oh, it reminds me.
What are you doing? He's getting
Just thought
something
we'd,
out of his pocket.
finish the show on a high.
If you're listening to this, Ed is trying to burn my shirt with a
If
lighter.
you'd like to get in touch with Rob about remote working, then check out his website, gofreelance.com. If you want to look at the show notes from here, or any links we've been talking about, or check out any of the other podcasts, then you can download them on iTunes, you can watch them on our YouTube channel. You can find all of the links to these on businessfilmbooth.com/business unplugged. Also, if you'd like to come on the show and you think you've got a topic that SMEs of the world might be interested in, then send us an email, make sure it jumps out, and if it sounds interesting, then yeah, you can come on, no matter where you are in the world. If it's not right from the show, then don't hate us if we say no. Oh man, this could backfire.